How's it going, everybody? The Seer here, and today we are doing our defense options video for you guys. So the season just ended. I did end up finishing in that Masters 3 top 100. My official rank is 73 for the season. I'm very happy about that. It just goes to show all the work I put in as far as trying to find the correct counters, balancing my offense and defense. It definitely paid off for me. So I'm very excited and honored to basically be in the category of like Juicy and Dorky Dad and everything. So the defense options video, I always have it set up to where there's 4 defense teams that you can use for each room. Now this season's going to be a little bit different. The main reason for that is the rules for this is the vampires and zombies. So Night Stalker characters are going to gain plus 20% damage. When attacking a character with bleed, gain plus 1 offense up. Undying characters, they're going to gain a plus 20% max health. When attacking a character with bleed, gain plus 1 defense up. Now, the reason this one's going to be a little bit different than normal is we have the new meta characters that's coming out. You always want to try to build these new characters. Don't delay building these guys so you can push back and start leveling up some of the other characters. Now, try to balance your offense and defense. It's going to be the big key to this season. If you ended up working up, say, your out of time team and you need the extra offense team, just slot any of those filler teams in. By filler team, I mean something that's going to try to take some efficiency. Infinity Watch, out of time. I wouldn't do Alpha Flight. You're going to need them for offense mostly this season because of that raid room, which we're going to get into. So right now on this infographic we have here, we have the 5 Night Stalkers. They're going to be a very big, important piece to your offense or defense, depending on how you want to use them this season. For Gladiator and Peter B. Parker, the reason I have them on here is because of that stage 1. There's going to be 2 different routes that you can go for stage 1, which we're going to get into. But Gladiator, if there's 2 other Annihilators, this team can't get the vulnerables until he drops down, I believe, under 50%. Peter B. Parker, on their Spider Society turns, they clear that vulnerable if they, I believe, get attacked is the key word on there. So that's really going to shut down that stage 1. But stage 1 is going to be a yo-yo act, which we're going to talk about. Now, why do I have Northstar and Deathpool on here? Northstar, in raids, he shuts down any way to gain the turn meters and everything. That's going to shut down a lot of the Night Stalkers or other teams that kind of benefit that. Like they throw Super Skrull in the raid room, it's going to be pretty nasty. For Deathpool, she ends up giving the turn meter on spawn to Mystic allies, which works perfectly with the Night Stalker team. So you can swap out Moon Knight for one of these 2 characters if you want to do something like that, or maybe slot a Super Skrull in, forcing your opponent to use the North Star into that. There's going to be a lot of interesting ways to mess with your opponents in that stage 2. So let's go over to stage 1 really quick. So stage 1 is combat support. Fortifier and healer characters. On hit, apply plus 1 vulnerable, up to 20. Striker characters on hit, apply plus 3 vulnerable, up to plus 20. All other characters, that's going to be your skirmisher and raiders. On hit, apply plus 2 vulnerable, up to 20. Now this is what I mean by the yo-yo act. All characters, when attacking, gain plus 100% damage per vulnerable on the attacking character. So initially I read this as you're hitting those characters vulnerable, you're going to be getting a damage boost. I believe it's you want to stack up those vulnerables and then punch them back in the face. So there's 2 different routes depending on how this does play out. What I'm going to be doing is putting my Orcus team in here. If they try to bring Cabal in, my Scientist Supreme is a healer 3 purple. She's going to clear those vulnerables. And usually the Lady Deathstrike will go, Nimrod will go, and then the enemy goes. And then we get to hit them back with, say, Omega Sentinel, Lady Deathstrike again, Sentinel himself. So I think this team with the new stats can benefit fairly well from this room. Now, I would recommend most of the characters to be strikers in this room, because they're going to be applying that +3 vulnerable as a striker. When you hit them, that's going to trigger their own ISO attack to hit again. So that's going to put 2 vulnerables on the enemy, and you get that double tap every single time. Another option that you can do is going to be that Extreme X-Men Rogue and Dorm. They're just a nightmare every time we end up seeing this. And having it to where Nightcrawler goes first, and then usually the other team starts hitting into them. When this team hits back, it's going to be devastating, especially when Gambit, if he gets that ult off, that's going to be basically game over, because that plus 100% damage. So if you can't kill the Extreme X-Men basically by turn 2, it's going to be pretty ugly. 2 other options if you want to go with shutting down getting the vulnerables on yourself, but then you're going to be stacking up on the enemy. It's going to be interesting. The Annihilator Super Skrull Pavitra is just nasty that we discovered last season. Pavitra is going to put the vulnerable on the enemies. They're already going to have those. Your guys, especially your Gladiator, is so beefy. He should be able to take those hits as long as he doesn't get the 20 vulnerable, because that's going to be 2,000% damage. And then when Thanos goes, Super Skrull goes. I think could be an interesting one in stage 1. However, Super Skrull is going to be a key piece for the Raid Room stage 3. I think I said stage 2 earlier, but the Raid Room stage 3, which we're going to discuss why. I'm keeping my Super Skrull for offense because of that. Now, doing the Spider Society with Black Knight, Peter B is going to be stripping all those vulnerables off. This team hits really hard, and if it is going to be the way where as you hit the vulnerables, they take extra damage, this team's going to be brutal in here, especially having the Black Knight do the retaliates. I really want to see how it plays out, but I think it's going to be you want to get the vulnerables, then hit them back. So you need a team that's going to be able to stack at the vulnerables, take the hits, and then hit back really hard. So Orcus is going to be my pick for stage 1. Let's move over to stage 2 next. Rules of combat. Villain characters on a successful attack apply defense down to each target attacked. That's actually pretty important. Being able to have a lot of villain characters and make it to where you're getting defense down, then hitting them harder. That could be pretty interesting. Hero characters on a successful attack apply offense down for each target attack. I'm going to be using my Annihilators with Dorman here. Having it to where the Annihilators usually pull the Mercs for money, and we are putting defense down on them, so we're hitting them even harder. I think that could be pretty devastating. Add Dorm to the mix to get the revive once. The opponent's going to have to add a North Star in there. North Star is pretty squishy, especially when Gore uses the ultimate. And then North Star's going to end up getting the defense down on him as well. I don't know if North Star's going to make it to the ult with this team. So Annihilators, Dorm, Surfer's going to be my pick. Having the Surfer in there, being able to have the new stats and putting offense down, so that way this team is going to survive longer. I think this could be a pretty interesting team in here. Now, another team's going to be the Spider Society team. You're going to see that a lot. The Spider Society is basically the new Infinity Watch, the new cockroaches of Marvel Strike Force. We're going to find that just because of how annoying those spiders are. They do have the set counters of the Secret Defenders, Eternals, Secret Defenders, Cosmic Ghost Rider. But if I'm pulling a Secret Defenders in one of the rooms, I'm happy to do that, especially if I'm able to pull Black Cat away. So that way she can't just spawn in, take a revive once. I think that's going to be pretty impactful. Now, this one here is going to be a theme as well. Night Stalkers with the new stats. This is actually a really good team. They're going to work really well outside of the raid room. And an option that you can do, especially this season, is taking Moon Knight out and putting Spider-Man Noir in. Having it to where he's going to ult turn 1, hit 2 to 3 targets, putting bleeds on them. And because of the room, or the global rule, where Night Stalkers are going to gain the 20% damage, and when they attack a character with bleed, Night Stalkers are going to gain offense up. That's going to be pretty devastating based on how the Night Stalkers are. They already hit pretty hard, especially Blade. If he gets that ult off, he can delete characters. He's done it before. So having offense up with that hit, it's not going to be good. Orcus, you're going to see this a lot too. The new meta stats. So that's 3 teams right here, new meta stats. Try to find the best room for it. I think Orcus would have worked really well in stage 2. They're all villain characters. They're all going to be putting defense down on the enemy and then hidden into defense down, especially Lady Deathstrike. If she gets that special where the turn rewind, the ultimate is just going to wipe whoever she hits. Orcus could be a very good option in here. I like the option of the Annihilators though. Having it to where they hit into the defense down, give an offense down because of the Surfer, and have the option of adding Dormant to the mix. So that way I can actually use ultimates as an offensive weapon. So I put Revive once on this team. I think this is going to hold it pretty well. Let's go ahead and move over to stage 3. That's going to be that raid room. So raid on Crucible. Room counts as raid, lower resistance and healing by 50%. I'm going to be using my Spider Society with Mephisto in here. I thought about using one of the new teams, the Orcus team or the Night Stalkers team. But first we're going to talk about the Spider Society. They usually take the double sack or the Mephisto in here. If they want to try to use, say, the Night Stalkers and then throw Odin with them, I'm taking 2 huge teams away from my opponent. A plug-and-play character of Odin and the Night Stalkers who might have a buff if they have them on offense. Otherwise, they might have to end up doing a double sack and maybe like a... I don't want to say Bifrost because I don't know who's going to have that big of a Bifrost when we push Spider Society so hard. I just think this is going to work better here. That way it can actually use those new meta characters in other rooms and really stretch my opponent thin. Now, why don't I want to use Orcus in here? The Alpha Flight team has raid bonuses. Alpha Flight plus Super Scrolls going to walk over Orcus. So if I see Orcus on defense, I'm pulling the trigger. Alpha Flight, I'm going to take out the Wolverine. I'm going to put in Super Scroll. Then Super Scroll's going to have the turn meter due to all the buffs. I'm going to basic, then I'm going to special. When it gets to North Star's turn, I ult, I flip everything, and it's pretty much going to be game over. So the Alpha Flight is going to walk over Orcus, so definitely be mindful of that. For the Night Stalkers, the reason I don't want to put them in here is if my opponent has Night Stalkers on offense, they're just going to mirror it, and I'm not going to get the full benefit of having a Night Stalker team in stage 3. Now you can try to finagle this, take Moon Knight out, put Deathpool in. They're going to have that turn meter. My opponent will then use the Night Stalkers and slot in North Star. That way my opponent has the turn meter because of the Oath. Oath only gives that 5% turn meter on offense, not defense. So that's why I'm not doing Night Stalkers in the raid room. I'm actually going to use them elsewhere, and I'm going to have to see if I need to use Night Stalkers as an offensive weapon later on. But for now, I just want to see how I can do without that. Now, another option you can do is going to be that Extreme X-Men with Rogue. You can either go with Sunspot that I have on here, or you can go with the Cyclops to where if somebody dies, that's going to end up speeding up the Forge and that whole interaction. This did pretty well last season that we had this, but it was more of a rock, paper, scissors because it was either Hive Mind, Extreme X-Men, or Spider Society, and each of them kind of beat each other. That's why I'm going with that Spider Society and Mephisto. Really trying to make my opponent work while still having huge newer teams elsewhere. Let's go ahead and move over to stage 4 now. So for stage 4, we have Flashbang. With blind, lower that character's speed by 5%, armor by 25%, and ultimate abilities apply blind to the primary target. This is actually where I'm going to end up putting the Night Stalker team. Blade already on his ultimate, I believe it's the ultimate, does the blind to the primary and adjacent targets. So that's going to have about 3 characters, 2 to 3 characters that's going to have blind, making it to where they're going to have slower speed. And the Night Stalkers love it when they can get ahead of the enemy. Having it to where Oath is going to ult turn 1 as well. Agatha's going to ult turn 1. Moon Knight's going to ult turn 1. Man Thing, I'm not sure, but I think Night Stalkers can be pretty dangerous in stage 4. That way they can really take advantage of getting the blinds out there that Blade provides, and then some of the ultimates that come in later on that same turn in case they try to cleanse it. Then they're still going to have that minus 5% speed and a less armor. That way the Night Stalkers really can walk over the opponent that's in here. Now, as I mentioned before, you can try taking Moon Knight out and putting Spider-Man Noir in. I'm going to try it with Moon Knight just because he is that ticking time bomb. However, if you go with the Spider-Man Noir option, you're going to be able to ult turn 1 because of all the turn meter he gets anyways, get bleeds out there ready, Night Stalkers hit into it, they're going to get offense up, and Noir's going to be a really interesting piece with the Night Stalkers, but I want to see if I can keep Noir with the Spider Society that I have later on that you're going to see. If I'm able to finagle it to where I can take Noir out of that team and put him in here, I am going to be pulling that trigger, but I just want people to really respect the Moon Knight and Khonshu and Mark Spector because he's so cool. Now, if you end up going in with the Spider Society team in here, they have ways of cleansing their own negative effects because of Peter B. Parker. So if they can use the ultimates, get blind on the opponent, making it to where the Spider Society team is so much faster and they can cleanse off those blinds that get put on them, that's going to make this a pretty dangerous team. Now, I'm going to be personally keeping Superior 6 on offense, but I know some people like to put Superior 6 on defense. Having Superior 6 with the Black Knight in here is going to be pretty interesting. Making it to where Green Goblin Classic goes first, puts blind on the primary target, and then turn 2, we're going to have the Spider Slayer, Kraven, Doc. Doc Ock would ult on turn 2 as well. So that's 3 ults coming in on turn 2, 4 because of Black Knight. So that's going to be a lot of blinds that's going to kind of get staggered out. 1 on turn 1, depending on who Green Goblin Classic hits, and then 4 on the other ones. Unless you use Lizard, then you can have 2 ults on turn 1 for blind, 3 on turn 2, and Doc Ock being able to extend all those negative effects like the blinds. That could be pretty interesting. So if you do want to go more turtle heavy to being able to put the Superior 6 on defense, that is definitely an option. And that would also end up pulling away the Illuminati, free-to-play Illuminati without Captain Britain from your opponent. So taking that weapon away from them is definitely an option. Let's go ahead and switch over to Stage 5, Unholy Alliance. Now this one here, I actually want to test out the room rules for this, because it's pretty interesting, and I think I can find an interesting combination in here. So we have the unlimited X-Men characters count as Masters of Evil. Now it is only going to be the unlimited X-Men tag, not the full X-Men tag. That'd be ridiculous putting Nightcrawler with Kang and stuff like that. Masters of Evil characters count as unlimited X-Men. I'm going to be using the 2-piece Extreme X-Men in Gambit and Forge. Rogue is going to be added in, so that's 2 unlimited X-Men characters. I'm going to end up putting Absorbing Man with this. That way Absorbing Man's going to spawn in with Safeguard and Taunt. Titania is going to be able to put counters out there and deflex. Titania also goes pretty fast too, so I want to see how this combination goes. So we're going to have 2 Masters of Evil in Absorbing Man, Titania. Titania being able to ult turn 1, get the disrupt out there, ability block, just throw off my opponent, and then have it to where they can get the stealth. I believe Gambit would still be able to give them the stealth, because if he ends up critting, that puts evade on the unlimited X-Men as well as the Extreme X-Men, I believe. But regardless, if Absorbing Man makes it to turn 2 and he uses that special where you can peel off all those negative effects from Rogue and Gambit, throw it on himself, then throw it back at the enemy, that's going to be something that the opponent won't also expect. And Safeguard with a pre-taunt is very dangerous. We all know that. So if this doesn't work with the Titania, I'll probably just take Titania out and put Nightcrawler in. But having it this way, I'm able to use Nightcrawler on offense, and putting Nightcrawler with Mercs for money, having it to where Nightcrawler is going to be able to special turn 1, get the speed up on the Old Man Logan, ulting and getting more turn meter to Old Man Logan. That's going to be a very dangerous and fun interaction that we can start playing with, is having Nightcrawler on offense because of this room. So it's trying to find what's the best Masters of Evil I can plug in here that I'm not going to miss. Now, because I'm taking Titania away from Masters of Evil, I'm not going to have my Masters of Evil for offense. So I'm going to have Cabal with Kang as a permanent 4-piece, and I can plug whoever I want as the 5th. That's also going to be a pretty fun interaction. Now, if you want, you can make it to where your opponent has to try to use their Unlimited X-Men and Masters of Evil. If they're using this as an offensive weapon, they're going to try to aim it to use it on stage 5. So teams that can stop the Unlimited Masters of Evil combination would be something like the full Annihilators team, or going with the Mercs for Money combination team. Now, I did put the full 5-man Annihilators on here. You're always welcome to take off, say, Ultimus or Surfer, plug other options in like we did on stage 1 of adding in Super Skrull and Pavitra, stuff like that. Adding Dorm to the mix like I'm doing in stage 2. But with the Mercs for Money, I do want to caution you on this, because Mercs for Money is such a powerful counter into the Annihilators team. So if you do go more turtle heavy and you pull your Mercs for Money as an offensive option, try to make sure you have something that can match that to take out those Annihilators. That's going to be very important for you, and it's going to be kind of roster dependent on how offense heavy or defense heavy you go with for this season. Now, because this is a new season, try to go more offensive heavy on the first week, and then after each round, who did I not use that I can try to bolster my defense? But let's go ahead and go over to stage 5 or stage 6 next. For stage 6, this is What's Up Dog. Reduce all healing by 100%, and this is the more dangerous part. Spawn with Safeguard, Immunity, and Defense up. I'm going to end up pissing off a lot of people with this one. I'm doing my Odin with Illuminati in here. So this team was a nightmare last season. I think maybe 2 or 3 people actually cleared that room, and that was in stage 5 where they just got deflect up. Now imagine to where they're going to have Safeguard, they're going to have Immunity, they're going to have Defense up, and Captain Britain's able to get a taunt off turn 1. Granted, the Safeguard, Immunity, Defense up will drop off, but you're not going to be able to try to throw the ability block on Hank Pym. They're not going to be able to heal. However, Odin, on his basic, he steals health. This is going to be a nightmare. Stage 6, expect not to clear it depending on what people put in here. Now, another more dangerous option, if you want to go turtle heavy, it is a little bit more dangerous if you ask me. Superior 6 with Black Knight. Black Knight's going to spawn in with Defense up, Immunity, and Taunt, and Safeguard now on turn 1. And the rest of the Superior 6 also will spawn in with Safeguard, Immunity, Defense up. You can, if you want, not use Black Knight and use Lizard instead. If they try to use that free-to-play Illuminati counter where they try and put the ability block on the Green Goblin Classic, you're not going to ability block him. So that's going to be a pretty dangerous team in stage 6. It's going to be the Superior 6. Add Black Knight in or not Black Knight. Either way, it's going to be a nightmare as well. If you end up doing this and you do have an Odin, because right now I believe there's about 2,500, maybe 3,000 Odins in the game, then you can try to use the Illuminati Odin in a different room and put Superior 6 in here. I just plan to use Superior 6 as an offensive weapon. Otherwise, I would probably try to move a few rooms around and do something like that. Now, Black Knight Superior 6. Again, Black Knight, Safeguard, Immunity, Defense up, Taunts. Even if you sack it, you're not going to be able to get off the Black Knight, and then Spider Society is going to do what they want to do. They're not going to have the healing. However, an interesting interaction I think that you can do is if you have your Black Knight set as a striker, they do percentile damage. It's Fortifier. If you set them as a Fortifier, that should do Drain, and that should get the healing because it's a drain effect. I believe Drain is going to work in this room, so I don't have it listed on here because I only had 1 to do 4 options. Night Stalkers, I think, can work in stage 6 because they're going to have 55% Drain. So it's a matter of if Drain is going to work because you're dealing damage, then healing off of it. It's not actually a healing effect. So we need to see what happens on Sunday. If Drain effects are going to count as that. The reason Odin's going to work in here is because he steals that health on his basic. His special is not going to heal up, but the basics will start healing him every time he does that with the battlefield effect. Now, if you want, you can also use the Annihilator's Super Scroll Pavitra in here, or just an Annihilator's style comp in here. Then Gladiator's not going to be able to heal, but if you put Fortifier on him, which he usually is that Fortifier, he should be able to drain to keep his health up. And then if they start pushing you, they're going to have to deal with the Thanos passive or using the ultimate and Super Scroll popping off. Super Scroll having Safeguard immunity defense up, that's going to drop off pretty much turn 1 because of all the buffs that come in. But having the rest of the Annihilators with the Safeguard immunity defense up and Taunt that comes in with Gladiator, that's going to be a nightmare as well. Stage 6, that second line is going to be the biggest thing that we're going to have to deal with this season. The healing, I'm not really worried about. We can find ways around the healing of like using Fortifier for drains, or bringing in teams in that have a drain effect, or doing a health steal, like say Braun doing that health steal on his turn. Morgan Le Fay doing the basic that steals the health. So there's ways around the healing portion, but trying to find ways around the Safeguard immunity defense up, that's going to be a whole nother picture. Based on the room rules too, we need to see how the interaction with Ares and Apocalypse will be. If we bring them in, are they going to be able to take the Safeguard off? Because we need to see what the order of operations will be for this. If we bring them in and they don't get the Safeguard off, because say the room rules apply after, say, in war, like the bridge, how that gets the 10 positive effects on there, and that's why Ares doesn't hold those buffs off, because of they spawn in, they take that stuff off, and then they take the Safeguard. We need to see the order of operations, so keep an open mind on stage 6 and how those interactions are going to work for you. But I do hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to have these infographics more as a better layout. I just had to adjust it a little bit for this video, but the infographics will be on my Discord probably about Saturday. I want to try to make sure those videos and everything ready. I'll make some final touches maybe to this, but they're going to be on the Discord Saturday for you guys. So go ahead in the description, join the Discord, and make sure that you follow my community. We are building this channel up pretty good. So if you did like this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, have a wonderful rest of the day.